What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video, reacting to musicians warning fans about the music industry by Loudwire. What's going on, everybody? So today we're going to be reacting to musicians warning fans about the music industry by Loudwire. As per usual, if you've not already subscribed to Loudwire, please go ahead and do so. I've included the link to the original video in the description down below. Please go and click on it and give the original video a like. And on this video, my video, leave a comment on what you'd like to see me react to next, and let's get to it.
Yeah, the music business plays this Jedi mind trick on you where the whole thing's set up to be rapacious and take advantage of your weakness. If you get success and you have leverage, they'll get out of your way because you're making them a lot of money. But the minute you're not making them as much money, then they step in and they start playing these Jedi mind tricks on you. We know what to do. You know, the public's going to forget about you. I mean, I've heard all these things. Like, you know, this kind of weird, like, yeah, you're in the room, but you know, we're the arbiter of whether you can stay in the room. They do.
Record companies have been losing their minds for quite a few years ever since digital downloading and streaming. It used to be that they would get a chunk off of your record sales, record or CD sales. For the younger kids that were came out before you know, there used to be physical media. You would sell an album, CD, cassette, whatever, 8-track if you're going way back, and you would fetch anywhere from $10 to at most $25 for that piece of music if it was like a double album or something like that. So there's a decent amount of money for the sale of each. People that sell millions of records would make millions, if not yet billions of dollars for the record companies. Now that it's just streaming, they're getting so little. Now what everybody gets, if you have a record deal, they still call it a record deal. They still call it a record company. You get what's known as a 360 deal. They used to just take the biggest chunk off of your record sales, but your merchandise, you know, your hats, your shirts, all that sort of stuff, your concert revenue, all that, minus your expenses and promotion and all that, was 100% for the musician. That's why when an artist would have a huge album come out, they tour for years. That's what they're really making the money from. They make off of the record sales. Now that there is no such thing as record sales, or very minuscule, record companies are doing a 360 deal. They take a little bit of everything. Like, for example, okay, I'm a nobody. This channel is very small. If I blow up tomorrow, I have music on Spotify as well as doing YouTube. I have my own original music. If all of a sudden it blows up a little bit, and a record company comes up to me, and all of a sudden this channel starts going berserk, and I get 1 million subscribers, and I'm generating decent revenue from this. If I sign to the record company, they also want a chunk of the money that I get for Musician Geek, the channel that I built up without them. They would take a chunk of that too. You know what I say? A one-finger salute, and take a guess at what finger it is. Myself, for my own interest, if you are an artist that's gone viral because of your music, whether it be through, you know, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, and then they're coming at you offering deals, say no, stay independent, hire a decent manager that you will overlook things until you can trust them in order to get yourself good distribution and everything. Just go with it.
Do these 360 deals where it's like,
right.
If you get a perfume deal, if you like your whole world,
they own you.
We own a piece of your whole world. And fame is such a great quotient in American life now that you can see where kids would trade fame and give and be willing to give away like the profit part. Look no further than the deals that the record labels cut with the streaming services. They got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music. But as Spotify and the other streaming services raise up in their equity position, the labels benefit. So the labels pimped out their own artists to take a greater equity position in a rising business.
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives. And he's saying, well, we can't take a chance on this.
Those that know me know I have a tremendous amount of respect for Frank Zappa. Yeah. But back then, there was no such thing as, well, there was independent musicians, but you wouldn't be able to get anywhere off of being an independent musician. You had to go through record labels. There was no internet. There was no going viral off the internet. There was nothing like that. So you were forced to work with them. If a guy like Frank came out today, he would absolutely love it. The ability to put it out all on your own, to get it out there, have your 1,000 or more true fans and make things work that way. He would have absolutely loved it and thought it was great, I would think. But then maybe he'd be arguing against how the algorithm is still catered towards that which is commercial. I'm not sure, but I never knew that Frank would prefer the old school guys as opposed to the young hip guys, because the old school guys gave him more of a chance. I did not know that. Strictly commercial.
Because it's just simply, that's not what the kids really want, and I know. And they got that attitude. And the day you get rid of that attitude and get back to, who knows, take a chance, that entrepreneurial spirit where even if you don't like or understand what the record is that's coming in the door, the person who is in the executive chair may not be the final arbiter of taste of the entire population.
I don't know if most people have seen long-form contracts. They're insane, and there's all these little things thrown in. It's kind of like legislature for a government. They put up this big issue, but underneath that issue, there's like 17 other little laws that they threw in that they're not talking about. So when you say yes to this one thing, you're actually saying yes to like 45 other things.
In other words, they're putting in a ton of gray area that they can use it to wiggle out this way or wiggle in this way. There's a bunch of legal back doors for them to be able to basically screw you, the musician, as much as humanly possible. I say, if you're a modern musician in the modern day, you've got stuff that's happening because of the stuff that you put out independently, like I say, whether through Spotify, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you become viral. Surround yourself with a good team and give the one finger salute to all the record companies. Just give them all the big one finger salute. If all musicians stand up now and go, you know what? Record companies, we don't need you. Especially now, since I'm hearing a lot about how artists that sign to a record company are told by the record company, okay, make a lot of TikToks. You got to make a TikTok that's big enough for you to go viral and for the song to go viral. So make sure you put together that TikTok. Well, if I got to put up the TikTok to make sure I'm going viral, what do I need you for? Oh, yeah. So you can also take all, if not yet, a good chunk of my YouTube audience that I built up well before that. Yes, there is a YouTuber that talked about that. She got a record deal. She already had like 500,000 to almost 1 million subscribers. I'm not going to say who she is. She's talked about it before, but I'm not going to say, I'm not going to out her. And the record company took the revenue from her YouTube channel as well. One finger salute. Yes, which finger, record companies? One finger salute. That's what we should all do. We should all bind together to say no to the record companies forever. Let's just all be independent. Let's distribute our own. Let's use distributors. Let's keep all of our publishing. We don't need them anymore. We don't. We really, really don't.
There's a worse one. They used to have damage fees with digital downloads. Digital downloads, like at first they were doing that, like they just trying to get away with murder, you know, just like,
What?
let's leave it in there, let's see if the lawyer sees it kind of thing.
Yeah,
Damage
Metallica is a
fees?
big exception. But a lot of metal bands you've heard of that you consider very successful metal bands are in situations where they need to diversify. I think the idea, that we all had as kids, we're going to make it, and our one band that we're in is going to make us all this money and be our sole source of income. I think that's gone.
Yep.
For the most part, unless you're very, very lucky. That's not the case anymore.
For younger bands that don't have the draw that we do, it's incredibly difficult. It really is.
Sure.
For bands that don't understand or that don't fully take advantage of how the machine actually works, it's incredibly difficult.
And it's gotten even worse post-pandemic. There's a lot of big name touring acts, not huge, but mid to big, that have had to cancel tours because the price of gas, they can't get tour buses, the cost of everything going up so much. It costs so much to go out on the road. Unless you're a huge name like, Disturbed or any of those other really big bands, it's so hard to actually go out and make money with just one band or anything that big. It used to be that if you were smaller opening acts, doing smaller theaters and all that, you could do all right. You're selling a few copies there back when there was physical media, even though the record company back then used to take the lion's share off of it. If you sold millions of copies, you'd still make some money off of your album sales. But with those millions of copies, you're going to sell out every 20,000 seat arena all over North America or wherever you decide to tour. It's not like that anymore. With music streaming, there's next to no sale in it at all anymore, and it's getting harder and harder to go out on the road. The prices of tickets are going insane. Hardly anybody can afford to go to concerts at all anymore. But for the bigger name acts, they want to bring in this huge production, lights, all this other stuff. That's cost, that's money, that's an extra truck, that's an extra 10 to 15 road crew out on there that need to be fed, that need to have hotel rooms and all that. The bottom line, when it comes out to the music industry, it's an industry. All about money like anything at the end. If it doesn't make money, it's not going to continue. It's not going to be able to live on.
Every band needs to really pay attention to what their record contract says. They look at what their royalty rate is. If you realize you're getting 0.07 cents for every stream, and your contract only says that you get 15 points on the record after you've recouped
There's a lot of
everything.
zeros after that decimal.
Exactly. So it just keeps on being reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced, and you have to really pay attention to it. You have to negotiate, you have to hardball, you have to, and you have to try and improvise and adapt and overcome. I've said that a million times.
I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned
Genius.
the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work, I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me.
There are a few people, well, most people know, but the true genius, and I'm not throwing that term around loosely, of Prince, he played over 20 instruments fluently. Everybody knows as a musician, okay, you can maybe, mainly a bass player, but I also play guitar, bass and guitar. I can play a little bit of drums. There's people that can play a little bit of keyboards and all that. But you can tell, hey, this is your main instrument. You play all those other ones all right. Prince played all of those instruments like a world-class badass. A few of his first albums were him in the engineer's seat, in the producer's seat, doing every instrument. Later on, he ended up getting different players on just for different flavors, but he didn't need a single musician to help him out with a note. He could have done everything, engineered, produced, everything, and done it better than frickin' anyone. One of the most killer guitar players, killer bass player, killer drummer, killer keyboard player, plays just a freaking genius. But also, even though he was a little eccentric, let's say, that's what you call rich people that are crazy or genius. They're not crazy, they're eccentric. He was very smart. And what he's talking about is back in those days, they would offer you a large advance. And all these young artists and bands are like, yeah, we made it. We're getting all this money. It's not free money. It's essentially a loan that they're giving to, that they're expecting for you to pay that back from the album sales. But like Prince said, he said no to the advance. He recorded and produced the music in his home studio. So that way he kept all the rights, and with all the money that came in, he kept it. He did not have to pay back the record company that advance. So that's another thing. If you do, that's the way they tempt you, eh? That's the way they lure you in. Keep in mind, record companies forever have made billions, not millions, billions with a B, off of screwing musicians over. I say we all give them a double one-finger salute. You know what finger I'm talking about. And just, if you've got success going, stay independent. Have them knocking on your door like crazy and just reply back, no, thank you. No, thank you. Because they're going to take a chunk of everything from you. Prince had it figured out going way back when you still needed them, but he figured it out by way of, wait, I got my own studio. I don't need anything for recording costs. I'm not taking your advance. I'll starve it out for a little bit, so that way when that album comes back, yeah, that's all me, yo.
That said, the companies felt otherwise, and they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. It shouldn't be a situation where they own the album or the work. We're talking about intellectual copyright. If they're going to be indeed a delivery service, then that's fine. But even FedEx doesn't say that they own the thing that they ship.
When I first started, I came into it with such a sense of idealism that that music was ultimately, which it is, an expression of your soul. 2 months into my first professional thing, I realized that it's a really ugly industry, like any industry would be, I'm sure.
Ugly, shady, corrupt, backwards. When you think about it, at the end of it's almost kind of like the Olympics. Olympians are doing all the work. Unless they get some sort of sponsor because they're that big, they don't make any money at all. Musicians are the ones doing all the work. They're creating the music. They make the least amount, unless you're staying independent. I can't stress that enough to everybody out there. In this day and age, with everything that's happening now, stay independent at all costs. Even if you have a viral moment, especially if you have that viral moment. If you're a little overwhelmed, look into decent management, but not necessarily sign right away. Oversee, feel them out. But yeah, there's a way to do it on your own so much better than having anybody else sticking their hand in the cookie jar and taking what is rightfully yours.
Logging or any industry is ugly when you start getting into the money of it. But music, in a way, more so, because it's monetizing something that is your passion.
I'm an independently owned artist. I kept my publishing. All the things that I could have done smart, believe it or not, I learned from street level in what I call bar none, the music business. I have some great friends, but bar none is the sleaziest business in the world. It's a business where there's 50 ways to get rich and rock the world, and there's 50 ways to get screwed from just one incident.
The music industry it is a joke. Every band that they signed, they tried to make sound like the last band.
Yep.
To perpetuate this myth of that's what music should be.
And that's the other thing, is the labels will try to change you. They don't want anything original. They kind of just wait for the next big trend to happen, and they want nothing but a bunch of bands that look and sound, or artists that look and sound exactly like that. They do not want to do anything original. They want to regurgitate and play it safe, because to come up with something original, there's a certain amount of risk there. But you might just change the world if you do that. I'm serious as a heart attack. Putting out an artist that is completely non-commercial, but that is fantastic, and somebody out there pushing it out to commercial FM stations or wherever else, that makes a huge difference. That's what happened to Rush. It was pirate radio that really helped Rush get out there. Can you imagine a world without the band Rush? That is not a world I want to live in. It's not. It's just not. So if the people in the record industry, the people in the commercial FM stations were at least a little more willing to take risks and not just push out the same regurgitated crap all the time, maybe I'd lean a little bit more towards, okay, maybe they can do something for us, but all they're going to do is do a 360 deal if we fit into the mold that they want us to exactly, completely compromise ourselves and end up completely screwed over and broke at the end of the day. Again, double one finger salute to the record companies. Join me all. Double one finger salute. We know which finger that is.
That bit them in the ass, because now we're down to watching literally America's best fucking singer or dancing with singers or whatever the fuck reality shit they got going as our source of popular music. But we still don't get fucking paid for anything we do, and we travel around town to town hoping for scraps of food and shit.
Wow. All right, that was reacting to musicians warning fans about the music industry by Loudwire. As per usual, if you haven't already subscribed to Loudwire, go on and give them a sub, please. And I've included the link for the original video in the description below. Please click on that. Give that video a like as well too. And on this video, my video, leave a comment on what you'd like to see me reacting to next. Thanks for checking out this video. If you like what you saw, please subscribe, click the notification bell, like, comment, and share. It doesn't cost a thing and would really help out the channel. Also, please subscribe to my other channel, GK Mac Music, for some live looping live streams with a side of jackassery, some original music, and some short content, also with a side of jackassery. If you'd like to help out the channel financially, you can buy some merch at the merch store, or you can become a channel member. As always, everyone, thanks so much for your continued support. Do what makes you happy.